Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we are going to be talking about how to make sure that your brand message is crystal clear. Now, it's important to be able to make sure that your message is crystal clear, simply because if you're not able to communicate what it is that you do, but more specifically why it is that you do it, and equally how it is that you really help somebody, the person who's coming to you or potentially coming across your page, potentially coming across you in person, however that may be, the person that's coming in front of you needs to get it, right? You get your craft, which is absolutely brilliant. Now let somebody else get your craft. All because you want to make sure that any decisions that they're making, whether or not they actually want to work with you, actually leans in your favor. Help them to say yes more easily by way of creating a message that is super crystal clear. Now, before you get stuck into this particular video, make sure you stick around to the very end, because as always, I've got something to share with you. But before you do any of that, make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, because I'm super aware of my views. Thank you very much. But at the same time, I want to make sure that as many people as possible go ahead and actually take part in what it is that I have to actually share with you. Simply because branding is super key, but not only that, representation is even more key. When people get to understand you, when people actually get to see you even more, familiarity becomes even better. Commonality becomes even more better. And why those two particular things are important? Well, these things that I'm going to get you to ask yourself later on in this video will help you to understand that with those things in mind, the way that you represent yourself, the way that you're actually showing up, will be so in a way that's actually congruent to your standards and beliefs, and will also be so in a way that allows your audience to see you, to get you, and to understand you. It's all super important, especially when it comes to branding. People don't pay it enough attention, but however, when you do get it right, and especially when you pay attention to your brand power of 3, you get to understand how to move forwards in a way, as I said before, that is congruent to your standards and your beliefs. So, folks, without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. Okay, so there's just a few things that you need to know, especially when it comes to the idea of knowing how to create a brand message, or knowing how to make sure that your brand message is crystal clear. Now, there's a few things that you need to know before I actually ask you these particular questions that I want you to really honestly answer, because if you don't answer them honestly, well, then you're not going to be able to move forwards in the way that you are wanting to be moving forwards, especially if you want to get the specific results that you're looking for, right? So, first and foremost, you got to know these things, okay? So think about this as brand messaging 101. So the first thing that you got to make sure that you know is, and equally write this phrase down as well, please. So know that complexity will always repel. However, clarity will always attract. So complexity repels and clarity will attract. Now, pretty much means exactly what it says on the tin right there. So in terms of like drawing confusion, creating something that's super over leveled and hyped up as to what it is that you're doing, it's not needed, simply because you're going to be pushing a lot of people away. What you want to do is make sure that you actually get to the point straight away, but more so specifically, how it is that you really help them. So go below the surface level. This is why you've got to tap into your brand power of 3 to understand and know what that foundational or even surface level, below surface level, in fact, stuff is. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to make sure that you always know. The second thing that you need to make sure that you know is that your brand message is not your elevator pitch. And I'm going to say that again. Your brand message is not your elevator pitch. It's something different. What it does, it actually reinforces your elevator pitch. Now, your elevator pitch actually addresses the who, the promise, and how, or even what the answers are to specifically your audience's problems are. So just to give you an idea, my elevator pitch, for example, is the line that I typically use, and I'll have on my profiles, especially for LinkedIn, for example. It will be partnering with service-based business owners to craft strategic and distinctive brands that elevate authority, stand out, and equally drive growth. So it's answering typical problems that most business owners will face when it comes to building their own brands. And 9 times out of 10, they won't even know the direction that they need to be heading in order to make sure that their brand gets elevated in the right kind of a way, to position them in the right kind of a way. So I address those key things in my elevator pitch. Now, when it comes to my brand messaging, as you know, my brand message is all about helping others to see that they are more than what they see. Because that level of confusion that the average business owner will face is because they haven't actually addressed what it is that they really, really do and how it is that they really, really help them. So my being able to help others to see that they are more than what they see allows them to address all the golden nuggets that they're typically overlooking. I address this below surface level stuff so that others can elevate and actually build on their authority even more so that they head towards the results that they're actually looking for. And as another fun fact, when it comes to branding 101, especially when it comes to brand messaging, you've got to remember that with your brand message in mind, your brand message is always going to be addressing the mission, the theme, or the underlying current that drives your business, that drives your brand to do what it does, right? So with that in mind, as you already know, as another example, my mission or my vision, or in fact my theme is I help others to see that they are more than what they see. Because here's what I've always understood and here's what I've always seen when I come across a lot of business owners, and especially the average business owner who has not addressed their brand, more specifically has not addressed their brand power of 3. I've always noticed that they work on this surface level thing. So when they start speaking about what it is that they do, they just keep it on this level. However, when they start realizing, recognizing what their brand power of 3 is, that foundational element that I keep talking about, understanding that they are now more than what they see, allows them to start elevating and allows them to start speaking and positioning themselves as that authoritative figure, all because they've addressed those key things. So now, once again, what is your brand message? How are you going to make sure that with your promise, your theme, whatever that element may be in mind, how are you going to make sure that your audience understands the real crux as to why it is that you're really doing what you're doing? If you have a brand message in mind, perfect. If you do not worry at all. Make sure you still follow along with this video, because these pointers, these questions that I'm now about to get into with you, will help you to start thinking as to how you can make sure that you bring clarity to the table, especially when it comes to your brand message. Okay? So the first question that you want to make sure that you are asking yourself, and once again, folks, please be super honest with yourself, because if you're looking for certain results, well, it comes with honesty to begin with, and you need to make sure that you are being honest specifically with yourself. Now, with that in mind, the first question that you want to make sure that you ask is, does your brand message pass the 5-second test? So, meaning, are you just getting straight to the point, or are you waffling when it comes to sharing this message? Now, that's not to say that you can't have different levels to this message after a question has been asked. And when I mean by after a question has been asked, I'm talking about the level of curiosity that your audience may have. So, as I shared with you, my brand message is all about helping others to see that they are more than what they see. I did that probably in just under 5 seconds. But essentially, folks, you want to make sure that you get that brand message out, right? Nice and clearly. People do not want to read reams and reams of information. They want to get straight to the point. As you know, we are in a day and age where we have information overload. So clarity is always going to be trumping any type of complexity element. So with that in mind, this is the second question you've now got to ask yourself. And I've kind of been talking about this anyway. So does your brand message create intrigue rather than be confused once again with all the jargon? And what that means is, just as I said before, does it create a level of curiosity that will allow this intrigue to happen? So will your audience be thinking, oh, tell me more? Or will they be thinking, right, I guess. You want to make sure that that directness in question asking actually happens, and that level of curiosity happens in the right kind of way, working in your favor. Because that's how you build up conversation. That's how you build up a reputation. And more specifically, that's how you help others to know a lot more about you and start building on the idea of what it is that you also want to be known for. And with this in mind, especially when it comes to this second question that I've just asked you, right? A little tip for you to always just say what you mean, and equally mean what you say. For me, as I shared with you, my brand message actually stems from the way that I used to feel. So helping others to see that they are more than what they see isn't something that I always felt at one point and one stage of my life. Now, if you've heard my story before, there was a point in time where I didn't used to feel seen. I didn't used to feel like I had a voice, in fact. So now, aside from all the principles that I've actually applied to my own status, to my own life, and to my own way of building up my own brand, and equally how I've helped others to go ahead and do the same, I actually really understood what helping others to see that they are more than what they see actually meant when I was presenting one day on stage. Now, I was delivering a keynote session all about branding, all about the idea of why representation matters, and then some. But it really wasn't until after I came off the stage that I really understood what it is that I actually meant myself. And this is where it really landed for me. It wasn't until somebody actually said to me, Tan, do you know what? Until you actually stood up there, I didn't realize myself that I actually need to be doing more. Now, this woman saw herself in me. She's another black female entrepreneur. She's earlier on in her game. However, at the same time, she saw the fact that I was doing the do, walking the walk, talking the talk, but at the same time, she saw herself in me. I then really realized, I am more than what I see. Representation really does matter. And the fact that you are showing up in a way that's congruent to your standards is what's going to be super key, especially when it comes to even building your brand message from that point. It is super important, folks. So really get to grips. And this is why I really urge you to be honest with what it is that you're doing, because somebody's going to be sharing with you a point that is actually a testimony as to why your brand message should be what it is. Okay, so now the third question that I want to make sure that you are actually asking yourself. Does your message relate to humans or does it relate to algorithms? Now, I'm going to share with you some examples as to actually what I mean by this, but essentially, what I'm asking you is, are you talking human to human, or are you trying to make sure that you've got some SEO terminology whacked in there so that you keep getting picked up on an algorithm that allows yourself to have further reach? Now, yes, it's a good idea. However, still talk human to human. Allow humans to understand what your wording is about. Now, when you're doing so, that's how you create your intrigue. As you know, my message is all about helping others to see that they are more than what they see. It creates intrigue. It creates curiosity. I'm not trying to hitch onto an algorithm track. No, I'm talking human to human. So, how can you make sure that you're doing that for yourself? So, 2 examples that I want to share with you in everyday industry right now, okay? And a lot of these, obviously, examples we're quite familiar with, I would imagine. So, on one hand, we've got IKEA. The other example that we're going to be talking about is Amazon. Now, first of all, IKEA, let's just address that one. Whether or not you love their flat packs, however well that you actually get on with them. Now, IKEA, talking about the wonderful everyday. The wonderful everyday is essentially meaning everyday life. So how it applies to everyday life. And as you know, with IKEA, they are a brand that is all about functioning within everyday life. How can you make that easy? How can you make that direct? And how can you make it super straightforward that still allows for comfort, that still allows for flexibility, and that still allows for a way to make sure that you can have all of your needs met in one place? Now, that's IKEA. Their message, once again, is everyday life. They address and they really hit the nail on the head when it does come to the everyday life. What are the key things that you actually need in order to be able to function? They address it and they really get to grips with it. Now, let's look at Amazon. So Amazon, as we all know, it is one of the biggest brands out here, right? So with that in mind, they are all about working hard. They're all about having fun, but more so importantly, they're all about making history. And they do all of that by way of creating a message about convenience. Now, convenience, as we all know, how many of us have a Prime account that we really want to get rid of, but we know we don't want to get rid of because of convenience? We're used to this whole next day delivery or even same day delivery, depending on where you are. We're used to it now. And if we go back, we're going to be missing that idea of same day or even next day delivery. So we don't want to lose out on it. So you stick with your Prime membership, right? But you know what you're going to be getting. You see what you're going to be getting. And with all those things in mind, convenience will always win over having to wait a few days extra, right? So there we have it. Everyday life with IKEA. convenience, but more so having fun, making history, and also working hard with Amazon. So with those messages in mind, think again, when it comes to your own brand, what is your brand message? What are you about? What are you making sure that your audience receives from you? Those are the three main questions that I want to make sure that you are asking yourself in order to be able to have clarity when it comes to your brand message. Because as I shared with you, with clarity, it actually attracts the people that you're actually wanting to work with and helping them to say yes even more, right? And know that you don't want to overcomplicate this process, and more specifically, your message. Don't overcomplicate it, because if you overcomplicate it, once again, that's where the complexity element starts coming into play, and you start repelling all those people that you actually want to be working with. When you bring clarity to the table, when you get to grips as to what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, and how it is that you're really, really helping people, that's how you make sure that your audience, the ones that you actually really want to make sure that you're working with, really get it and really understand what it is that you're about. So with that in mind, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe to this channel, but more importantly, share with me your one big takeaway from this particular video. And I want to make sure that in order to be able to continuously do this process, to make sure that you are leveling up with your brand even more so, go ahead and click on the first link that's underneath this video. When you do so, you'll be taken to a page that, yes, it will ask for a few details. However, what will then happen is I will be sending you some key principles that will allow you to understand how to make sure that your brand gets the recognition it deserves, continuously builds on the awareness for your brand message, more importantly, so that you start speaking with clarity to an audience that you actually want to be working with. So I'm going to leave it there. Folks, I hope that this video really resonated with you, and I will see you on the other side.